All right. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you're having a great Wednesday hump day. My name is Rob Retman. I'm with .fit, and I'm super excited to be able to spend some time today, steal some time too, because I know he's a very busy person with I'm going to say one of the best educators, teachers, mentors that I know in this industry. And I know he's going to be like, oh, shucks, but everybody out there that knows Greg knows what I'm talking about. One of the best in the industry, and I've been around a lot of people. So I'm super excited though, but bringing to you Greg DiNatale from the Edge Fitness Clubs. Greg, I know you just told me before we got started, but if you don't mind just really quickly, if you can tell our audience a little bit about your current role. Forget the dang pandemic right now, but with what you do for the Edge at the moment, please.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. First, I'll start with saying, "Oh, shucks, Rob." That's very nice of you to say. But my current role with the Edge is the Director of Fitness Education, which means primarily responsible for the onboarding of new personal trainers into our company, and then overseeing the folks in our company who are out of state who bring on the new trainers into our company. So our PT Academy, which we've been running for a little over 5 years now, actually about 5.5 years, is a week-long kind of program, right? Educational onboarding program that we conduct with every new trainer who comes into the company. So overseeing that and the curriculum for that, and then the continuing education for the trainers, right, in their positions day to day, continuing education for the fitness managers that we have, and probably a little bit of, I call it like leadership consultation and working with the general managers and area directors, anything personal training. I kind of have my arms around, maybe not too well, my arms around, but I try to get my arms around that.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you know what? We're going to actually even touch on some of those things that you said a little bit later. I've got my series of questions here that I'm dying to be able to present back to you, which, by the way, I found an interview that you and I did together probably about 4 or 5 years ago when we were in the Fairfield Club. So I got to show you that video and see how much has changed in the last 4 or 5 years.
I remember that.
Yeah. So how about this though, Greg? Again, I get to know a little bit more because we've spent a lot of good time together, but take us back a little bit, if you would, high school, but then I know, in college, what did you study in school? And if you'll kind of talk a little bit about that. And I know you played sports as well in school.
Sure.
Take us there about let's go back on Greg DiNatale has been this very well respected fitness enthusiast with all different aspects at this point in your life. But where did that kind of start for you way back when?
Great. Thank you. Well, it started with me not wanting to have like a real job, I guess, or I try to remember, what spurred me into this business, right? And I knew I wanted to do something in the health, fitness, science, medical type field. Originally, I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer, and which led me to I applied to 2 schools, Rob, Plymouth State College and Springfield College, right?
Hey, so time out. I went to Plymouth State to be an athletic trainer as well. So crazy how that might have happened. Go ahead though, please.
Now again, I'm old, as I like to say, and that was when Joe Dudek was a running back for, he was getting Heisman buzz at the time. But I visited, and I think it was February, or it was March, early March. And originally my goal was to play college baseball. And there was still like 3.5 feet of snow all over the place in early March. I said, I'm not going to Plymouth State College. This is crazy. I don't ski. I don't like cold. I don't like snow. What was I thinking, right? But there weren't too many athletic training programs available at the time. Visited Springfield and had it just worked, right? It just felt good when I went there. They had that major, but I was rejected. I was turned down, denied from the athletic training program. And they said, but we will let you in as a health fitness major, which at the time, what they would call exercise science today, because it sounds official and really cool, they called health fitness at the time, right? So on my diploma, it says, health and fitness. So, so I said, okay, I'll go, I'll go as my freshman year and I'll transfer into athletic training. So that's what I did, and went there to play baseball, get an education. I wasn't that good, but it was funny because I had a volleyball skills class, right? Like gym classes. We had to take 3 or 4 every semester. Man, do I love Springfield College. So amongst water polo and golf and badminton and handball and racquetball and all these awesome classes I took volleyball, and the head coach asked if I wanted to try out for the team. I could jump. That's one thing I could do, was jump. I was wearing black and red Air Jordans. Remember, this was in 1986, the fall of '86. So I played basketball in high school. Our colors were red and black. I had the Air Jordans going. So I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This would be neat, right? I'll never forget the scariest phone call I ever made, which ended up not being scary at all, was calling my dad to tell him I was not going to play baseball, but I was going to play volleyball. And I thought he was going to be like, you've been working all your life for this? And he was like, oh, that's awesome. That's cool. That's great. And there you go, right? So I studied health and fitness there, and graduated with my degree in health and fitness. Moved to Glendale, California, Los Angeles in 1990 to work at a YMCA there as a fitness director, mostly to be closer to Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach and play volleyball. But it was interesting because when I showed up the next day was the Rodney King riots. The verdict was, I'm talking about like deja vu all over again, right? Just the situation. And so I was on top of the Glendale YMCA watching LA burn basically on my second day out there. Then there was the Northridge quake, and there was this, and then holy cow. My bachelor party was OJ's chased on the 405. Like I was in LA.
California was like kicking you out at this point. It was, get out of here, Greg DiNatale.
It was incredible. When I lived in LA, it was like the greatest, wackiest time in the history of LA, right? But so I started there. Now I had worked at the time it was Gold's Gym for Vinny and Jimmy at Gold's Gym. When I did an internship there. I worked in the summers at their location in Middletown, Connecticut, near where I grew up in Portland. And I came back to interview for some different jobs. My wife at the time did not like LA. I don't know why. Landslides, mudslides, fires, earthquakes, and et cetera. But so I went to go work out at the gym in Middletown, and Vinny was like, "Hey, we're opening a new club in Stratford. Come back, and work for us." Next thing you know, I moved back to the East Coast, and I'm working for the Fitness Edge, which then became the Edge Fitness Clubs. And that was in 95, late 95 is when they were finishing up the Stratford Club. So since 95, I've been with the Edge Fitness Clubs.
Phenomenal. So if we backtrack for just a second though, but for those of you that might not know, Vin Sansone was the original founder of what is now the Edge Fitness Clubs. And of course, as I understand the story, younger brother, Jim Sansone, graduates from school, winds up working together with big brother. And again, like from what I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but outside of the brothers per se, you're pretty much the longest tenured team member there now, aren't you? For the most part.
Yeah. There's that Vinny will tell people that. So if Vinny tells people that, I believe it. It's got to be true.
So how many clubs did they have when you first started with them, coming back from California?
3. There was 3. Middletown, Bristol, and Fairfield, and we were opening the Stratford Club.
Amazing.
So that would have been the 4th.
Amazing. And Greg, when you started, what did you start? What was your role at that point when you came to work then?
When I came back, we had just started or just recently started with Apex Fitness, a partnership with Apex Fitness. So my job was the nutrition tech is what I was called to open up Stratford. And I'll never forget it because we had so many appointments lined up. I worked 21 straight days. Like I'll just never forget that, 10, 11 hours a day, just running people's programs to kind of catch up from our pre-sale. And there was another woman there, Jen, who was also doing the same thing. We were sprinting, man. It was incredible.
That's amazing too, because what year was that, Greg? Do you remember?
Yeah, I want to say 96.
I mean, seriously, we just missed each other on so many things because ironically, I'm from Connecticut as well. And I was introduced to Apex, which by the way, is the company that Neil Spruce, the owner and founder of .fit is. That was the company prior to .fit. So I graduated college 95. So seriously, 96, I think was the year I was working at Simsbury Gold's Gym, which later turned into Simsbury Health and Racket. And I was introduced to the Apex program as well as a, the tech, and it was a 12-week program. And, we went to a 5-day school. And I always tell everybody too, I had just graduated with my bachelor's anyway, as well, with exercise science, teacher certification. And, I got more nutrition in one day from Neil than I did out of my whole bachelor's program, right? So it was unbelievable. So tell us a little bit more about that, because obviously, you have as long of a relationship with Neil as I do. We go way, way back. But, you're this guy just graduating school, you're coming back to the East Coast, and they're like, hey, we're going to do this Apex thing. So I'm sure, like me, going to this school, and all of a sudden, what happened for you there?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was in Bridgeport, so right next to Stratford. It was very convenient. It was I remember the Bridgeport Holiday Inn. I'm pretty sure it was that, right? And it was one of the first big schools they had done, 5 days. And it was incredible, just because Neil has always been just a fantastic educator, speaker, energy, enthusiasm, just tremendous, right? And at that time, I didn't have a lot of contact with that. My continuing education, I'd been at the Y for about 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, and I would do a little workshops here and there, but nothing to the depth, right? Nothing to, and the intensity of that. So it was real, like,
intense.
Whoa, oh man, it was something. And like you said, it was practical, right? All the information presented was dealing with practicality, practical application, which, again, I'd been out of school for 4 or 5 years, but the practicality wasn't the strong suit, and I went, Springfield is considered a good fitness school, exercise school, science school. And, we talked about concepts and VO2 max and, all that stuff I've heard you talk about before in the past. And so here it was like, here's how you help people. Here's what's important, it was incredible. And the staff at that time, you had some monsters, man, presenting there, right? Just some big, confident, strong dudes who really knew their stuff, and really smart and sharp. Like John McDermott, I remember off the top of my head, right? John, who was just, and John was a big, strong man. When he talked, he was confident, and it was just fantastic. It really set up, like, it was like light bulbs all the time, And I'll be honest, before that point, my supplementation history had been Gainer's Fuel, Twin Lab Gainer's Fuel, and desiccated liver pills and things of that nature. And so everything just started to click. When we started to look at this stuff, it really made sense. So it was exciting. It was very exciting, and incredibly illuminating and it really set up for, yes, you know what, I like this. I like those pillars, those steps, the components, which made sense. My brain, I'm a good list maker. That's kind of the way I think, is that in kind of that logic thing. So that made all the sense in the world to me.
Very cool. Very cool. So Greg, how about from those basic 3 clubs? And like you said, it was kind of the fitness edge at that point. How'd you guys go from that to all of a sudden, when I first met you, which is a little more than 5 years ago at this point now, it was the Edge Fitness Clubs. You guys were booming, and, people were starting to take notice. When I first met you, never mind a year or 2 later, everybody was taking notice, never mind even to this point now. But at that point, you guys really did experience some amazing growth, obviously brought in a lot of great key contributors too, and, have built an amazing team. But take us through that a little bit, if you would, even from your perspective too, on how your roles have changed with that.
Yeah, I think it's really a testament to vision, right? You have Vinny and you have Jimmy, and Vinny's vision and his goal has always been to create a fantastic experience for the member. Vinny is an equipment guy. And what I mean by that is the setup of the gym. And I mean, if you look my background right behind me, I mean, that's our Orange Club. And that to him is as good as it gets, just space and lots of equipment and stuff. And he just loves it, right? He's like Rain Man when he steps into a space and he can almost see the equipment and the layout just there, right? Before it's even there. And so he was always driven to provide an amazing experience. And then you have Jimmy, his younger brother, who, Jimmy's vision is excellence, right? So yes, an outstanding experience, but then servant leadership. Like, how do we serve our members to the best of our ability? And when you start there, how do you serve our members to the best of our ability? Well, what are they looking for? What are they lacking? What aren't they good at? And, no surprise, they're not good at achieving the goals they've set for themselves. They have the desire, they have the want to, they don't have the how. So I really think that the whole growth was built on amazing clubs. We build nice clubs. Like our new clubs look like that, right? Provided we have that layout. They're just beautiful clubs, and they're clean and they're sharp, and there's lots of stuff, so you don't get bored, and things are good. But I would say anyone can open a nice club if you have enough money, and we were fortunate because of this vision and because of the services we provide. People were willing to give us money and back us in that. So we had some key partners who were able to provide the financing side of things. And with that vision of an outstanding experience and then a drive for excellence, how do we serve our members as best as possible? They need help from the training side of things. And that's kind of where my role has been since 1996 is delivering, right? Driving the training side of things based on the fact that unfortunately, left to their own devices, most health club members are not going to succeed. And it's not because they don't want to succeed. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they lack the intelligence. No one's ever taught them how to do this stuff, right? And or their best intentions have been hijacked by voodoo. You know what I mean? Like just the fads, whatever it is, the exercise plans and the diets and the supplementation and all this stuff that people just make promises and don't deliver. So when you take and believe me, we have a whole heck of a lot more people in our organization who have that same drive and that same desire and that same passion to help as many people as possible. So when you wake up every single day with how do I help people today? How do I help people today? How do I help people today? And that's what drives you. That's without that, you can't build anything. So it's the foundation is built on what I like to, I think I stole this from Stephen Covey, those true north principles, right? The true north principles of helping as many people as possible and then helping them to the best of our ability. And we don't claim to be perfect in any stretch of the imagination, but all you can do is all you can do. If you just get up every day and to the best of your ability, use your knowledge and your energy and your enthusiasm to help people get from point A to point B, it's authentic. You have a genuine concern for others and you lay it on the line like that. That's the stuff, man. And I'm so lucky because think about how many folks you've come across in our organization, Rob, that have that. You kind of feel it when you talk to them.
It is really, really cool. And I tell, because obviously with .fit, we work with many organizations out there. And, again, it's a privilege to be able to work with you guys. And I mean that, I mean that. I tell you that all the time because, being able to be around Vinny, Jimmy, Michael Copeland, you're looking at Aileen and Joe, and gosh, I don't want to start naming names because I'm going to forget people, but Laura, I always do say, she's like, driving in her car at 2 a.m. to get to a whole nother state to open and be there at 5 a.m. And, it's just amazing. And if, for those of you that are in some of the newer clubs and when they do grand openings, I've been to quite a few of those as well. It's amazing to see the team meetings that they do beforehand, just how everybody responds to everybody, that is thanking everybody to allow that opening to occur. When I've been there before at various clubs, there is a line around the building for when that door opens and everybody in the club is clapping for every new member that walks in. It is a very intoxicating experience that you're just like, this is just great. And for a lot of you that don't know too, I give you guys a lot of credit, Greg, because for when I was introduced to the Edge, you guys were, to me at least, one of the first groups that really said, okay, we used to offer X, Y, and Z in this box at kind of a, let's just say mid 30s, mid 40s price range per month. But then that was kind of the boom of more of the high volume, low price model. But you guys go, we're going to kind of dip into that, but we're still going to give them everything that these other clubs offer. So like you said, and I've been to that club many times too, and you just look around because it's like, at prime time, it's like being in a mall because all these people are there. And again, everybody's doing everything. And, you guys have from I hope I say it right because I know sometimes there's technicalities on the term, but cardio cinema. But
Edge cinema.
oh my, I'm so dang jealous of your kids club because one thing I love, and coming from again our background that we talked about in college, I love that your kids clubs are full of things to keep kids active the entire time. I mean, it's actually a basketball hoop that I think I could even dunk on, but they've got bouldering walls and it's just nonstop activity instead of, sitting them in front of video games and that kind of thing. It's just very, very cool. And as well, for those of you that don't know, I've also seen and had the privilege that Greg backed me on this, but Vince Sansone, again, the original founder, it is absolutely a ritual of his that every time there's a brand new club opening, which is happening a lot lately, he has to get the first workout in that morning of the grand opening. And he goes around and, it's amazing. And like you said too before, when you said, we can never be good enough and just being around Jimmy, I mean, with his football coaching mentality, we can always improve and, just great drivers again, it's really, really exciting. So gosh, well, Greg, tell us a little bit about this though. What do you look for as again, I know you'll shuck and jive when I say this, but man, you're an industry icon to many of us out there. What does Greg DiNatale look for when you go, I'm looking to bring a personal trainer on board? What are the qualities of a person or to fill that role, if you will?
Yeah. And it's, you'll be able to compare this to the interview we did a few years back. And I guarantee you it hasn't changed because it hasn't changed for me in a long time. And my two favorite words are energy and enthusiasm. And I know it's kind of the same thing, energy and enthusiasm. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and it's kind of the same thing. However, energy and enthusiasm are my favorite words in personal training. As I tell our new trainers, to be honest, very few people want to train with Eeyore, right? Everyone knows who Eeyore is from Winnie the Pooh. And you could be a crackerjack man in terms of your knowledge of the human body. You could have advanced degrees. You could have all that stuff. But if you don't have the energy and enthusiasm, it's going to be tough for you. If you come in with the energy and enthusiasm, the information's out there. It's in books. It's written down. We can go find. We can help you be a better knowledge trainer, right? Knowledge of the body and how to help people, the steps to do that. There's organizations like .fit. There's organizations like NASM. There's how many organizations are there that have this unbelievable wealth of information that all you got to do is take it, right? Reach in and take it. But it's the energy and enthusiasm that is absolutely the key. And then the other two that I've added to my list, right? My favorite words, little tougher to pick up in interviews, and that's why the longer you interview someone, I'm a big fan of the 45 to 1 hour time period for an interview, to be honest. Will people let their guard down? Will they get a little comfortable? And then will they start to reveal a little bit? But it's hard to figure out because hustle and persistence, hustle and resilience, that's energy and enthusiasm. In this business, you got to hustle. You can never have enough clients, ever, ever, ever. And then resilience. Can you pick yourself off the floor? When you get beat, right, what are you going to learn from that? If you fall down, will you get up? Those two are a little tougher to figure out, but the energy enthusiasm is instantaneous. Can you engage? Can you keep me engaged for 45 minutes to an hour? Because when you're in front of our members, you're going to have to keep them engaged for at least 30 minutes, sometimes 60 minutes. So it's not even the questions. I'm going to throw the biggest softball questions in the world. And what I'm looking for, will this trainer get excited about talking about things they love, things they enjoy, things that fires them up? If they can't get excited about their favorite this, or what was your favorite job, or what did you love about that job? If you can't get fired up about that, well, how you gonna, you don't have it. And if you don't have it, I can't put you in front of people because that's not what grabs people. That's not what pulls people, magnetize them. The law of attraction isn't there. So I do everything I can to figure out that energy and enthusiasm. Does that person have it? And when I look back on mistakes I've made in the hiring process, right? It's always been, yeah, but maybe I really like this person. They're likable, but they're a little bit low on the energy enthusiasm scale, but maybe. It's very rare that those maybes end up, being successful. And successful being they create business and they maintain business, but they help people. They help people move from point A to point B. Yeah. And that's it for me, man. Like, that's what I'm looking for.
And isn't it crazy though? Because as again, if it's all right, I say the two of us, we've always kind of loved the education side of things with certifications and how can I learn this aspect of the business, this aspect, this flexibility technique, whatever it might be, right? But I always say I'm almost more of a hypocrite, because as much as I love the education, when I was in a role similar to yours, I realized we can teach them all that, but I can't teach you your personality like you just mentioned. If you don't come in with the energy and enthusiasm, and by the way, I do want to make a distinction though. When you say that, Greg, that doesn't necessarily mean that like everybody has to be a crazy extrovert. We've obviously seen some great introverted people still have their own way. So it's not like, because I want, for people that are listening that might be thinking, I would love to do that and work at the edge, but maybe I'm not going to be that person that's beating a drum, walking around in prime time. Doesn't have to mean that, but man, you got to have some personality there. And,
yeah, you're 100%. No, you're 100% correct. And it'd be a tragedy not to further define that, right? Because it doesn't mean that you're just a cheerleader, right? That's not the definition of it. It is, are you focused when you're with someone, right? It's more engagement than anything else. And it doesn't have anything to do with volume, and it doesn't have anything to do, I mean, I'm Italian, so my hands keep moving all the time, right? I got to keep sitting on them. But it's when you're with someone, are you with them? Right? Is there good eye contact? Is there engagement? Do you listen to what that person has to say? Are you thoughtful? And then do you not let your attention wander? Right? How many times have you been on the floor and you see trainers out there, and all of a sudden it goes right to the TV, and you're like, no, don't do it. Everyone in the gym just saw you. You left your thing. So that's an excellent point, and it's one that just bears repeating. It doesn't mean you have to be a cheerleader, but what it does mean is that you maintain your focus. You have a genuine concern for others, and when that person's in front of you, they're the most important person to you at that point, right?
Yeah. No, I love it. So because I've been lucky enough, you guys have taken your onboarding, which you say again is like 5 days, and many times out of the last 5 years, I've been able to visit, and you've given me a period of time to be able to help with the onboarding with .fit, for example. But one of the things I love is a lot of great certification agencies out there, again, will talk about, like, this is the humerus, this is the bicep brachii, and so forth. But I know that you personally spend so much time, though, in onboarding with all the things that were talked about. Again, what does your coaching posture look like? You know what I mean? How do you address people and those things? And a lot of times I feel that that's missing in the industry. So I love that there is that. And honestly, Greg, I think that's a big separator of where we look at the edge's success versus a lot of other organizations that maybe just require you to go get an outside cert, then come in and like, there's our members, go for it, as opposed to saying, well, now we want to share with you though what our culture is going to be, and let's take that information that you learned from so many great organizations, but now how do we do it, right? So can you expand just a little bit on some of that, Greg, because you're so good at it?
Yeah, thank you. It's because teamwork is our play, right? So we always call it the play, right? A lot of us have that athletic background, so we use that lingo, right? So in terms of our business systems and our training systems, that is the play. Well, that play relies upon teamwork. It's integrated with the general manager and the assistant manager and the fitness manager, right? So we're trying to emphasize strengths and de-emphasize weaknesses. A trainer's strengths typically is, how may I help you? Man, I got in this business. If you ask 100 trainers, why you got into this business, right? 100 of them are going to say to help people, right? That's good. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But then when it comes to translating, you want to help people. Now, can you help people? Meaning, can you sell training to them? Will they purchase training from you? Our system, puts the managers and the trainers together to help solve that problem, right? And so a trainer has to hand off that potential client and the clients, let the business folks handle the business. I'll handle that service side of things. So because that teamwork is so important, I always say we're not a good do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want company for a trainer. Your responsibility is to train the heck out of your client, right? Whatever you, Rob, my client needs and wants, my job is to provide that for you as a trainer. And maybe we do HIIT, and maybe we do low, long and slow, and maybe we do power, and maybe we do endurance, right? Like whatever that is. I'm going to trust you or that trainer to be able to provide that answer for you. What I need to require from that trainer, though, is to be part of the team, to meet with the manager when they come in during the day, to go to the staff meeting, to sit down with their fitness manager and go over what their day looks like, and what are our opportunities for service, who needs rescheduled appointments, but we go over everything, man. Like, we look at those pillars: the exercise, the nutrition, the supplementation, the coaching. What help do you need from me as your manager to help deliver that service to your client? And then what help do you need from me as the trainer, that I can help with that client in terms of make sure that they're complying and everything is good. So culture is big, and it is important. If you come to work for us, with us, it's that we provide holistic programming, right? And this is not the first time you heard that, but it's the food intake, it's the exercise, it's the supplementation, and it's the coaching. You don't get to skip a step, man. That's who we are. That's what we do. I always tell trainers, unfortunately, they're stuck with my belief that it requires all of that to help the person to the best of our abilities. I want to have, if I'm fighting, I want to be able to use both hands and both legs. Like, I don't want you tying stuff behind my back and then having to fight if I'm going to remove part of that. So there has to be shared vision in terms of the components: exercise, food, supplementation, and coaching. That has to be, we agree that you have to believe in all of that stuff. Otherwise, you're not going to last long, right? Yeah. And then how do we work with the management team so that we're as effective as possible, delivering outstanding service to the client, thus creating a strong business, right? Because we want to help as many people as possible. You can't help people if they're not clients. So that's that gap, and you have to be able to bridge that gap, right? Are you a good trainer if you don't have clients? I don't know. That's tough, right?
Yeah. And I think for what you really focus on as well, because even in the PT Academy, I know that you guys do different activity with things like Edge Strong that we can talk about in a few minutes as well. But for the most part, you're not in there teaching them anatomy and physiology. It's kind of like you had to do that, you come in, but now we talk about how to relate to people. And Greg, this is why, again, my fingers are crossed, because all of us probably on this call, but certainly you and I, with both the businesses that we represent, we rely upon people coming to our clubs, and obviously with what we've been dealing with the last 3 months. But I personally feel super optimistic that, it's not just a home solution. It's not people thinking, I can just do this, app, or I can do this. And if that's okay for you, that's cool. But most people, it's the accountability, and it's the positivity, I think, that the trainer and the staff members bring. Because again, I walk in the club and everybody at the front desk says hello, and I go in incognito. So, some people I know, other people don't, but I get the same hellos, whether they know me or not. But if I'm a client, I like when Greg says, you did really well today. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get that. And my app's not going to tell me that either. I mean, maybe it gives me a fake one. But I think that's the driving force, though, that separates the good from the great. That say, you know what, this is what's going to happen. When you're going to be a member here and be a client, this is how you're going to be treated. So that personal component, and I love that your company invests so heavily into training and development with the onboarding, because it shows, and for what you guys do. So, hey, I want to switch something here for just a second, without giving away trade secrets and everything else, right? But you guys have also developed something, and I know, again, I think more of the originators were the great group called Move Fitness out in the Northwest. I think they started this, but you guys, again, as great fitness families, shared information on different coasts to say, hey, you guys are doing this. we're going to try that. And then you tweaked it over the last few years, and it's become something so big that any organization I go to, they're always like, hey, come here a sec. Tell me, how does this work? But of course, what I'm talking about, is, the Edge Challenge. Yeah. But Greg, can you tell us a little bit about the Edge Challenge again, without, I want to make sure everybody's okay with whatever you're sharing. So
yeah, well, number one, we have to thank Jeff Carlson and the Move Group, who were, I mean, were just tremendous and willing to talk to us about what was successful for them and what was, the good, the bad, and the ugly about all this, and what their play was and what they did, and him and his group. I mean, we owe them a lot, because we had run something called the Edge Revolution years earlier, not nearly as successful. Some good stuff in there, but not we weren't helping enough people. We helped some people, but not enough people. So to be able to look at, who does it better, who's the best in class, and look at that was really something. And it just resets the bar, right? It resets what you start thinking, what's possible. You start to realize, ooh, we weren't doing that well, right? So you take responsibility for that, go back to the drawing board. What do we need to do? And one of the most painful parts of this, stay at home, was this past challenge. We had over 4,000 people, right, who were enrolled in this. We were, man, it was flying, man. It was just absolutely flying, and the community and the experience was tremendous. The kickoff parties, oh man, like we finally felt like we got our arms around, we're sort of getting it close to this. Like, it was fantastic. And then you get kicked in the caboose, with the stay at home. So moving forward here, it's going to be something else. But again, what drives the Edge Challenge is, how do we help as many people as possible? We have so many members in our gym who we don't help, we don't come in contact with. They don't work with us one-on-one. They're not in Edge Strong. So what kind of program can we put together that is attractive, right, to someone who doesn't work with the trainer? And, I know in the fitness industry it gets kooky, but it's weight loss, man. People join our gyms to lose weight, right? And I'm not saying it's the most perfect measure ever. If we could, we'd measure the body fat, and we'd mention, and put that all together, and that would be the way. But when you start talking about 4,000 people and more is our goal to get with that, it becomes the economies of scale. So that Edge Challenge is just driven by, how do we help as many people as possible? Because honestly, I really feel like, I always call it, we have the answer. This is the answer right here. Your goal is, you want to change your body composition. You want to lose weight. You want to move closer to optimal health. I gotcha. And here it is. Here's the answer. Now you got to come take it. Shame on us. You weren't coming to take it through one-on-one training and through what we had to offer. So let's look at other possibilities. And so when the Edge Challenge puts in one package the best of what we do, right? So you get one-on-one training sessions, you get unlimited use of Edge Strong, that small group training classes that we run, right? You get an extra workout done just for Edge Challenge people. You have a coach, right? That trainer you're going to meet with sits down with you and runs your .fit program, right? So the food intake plan you should be, how many calories you should be taking in, and let's talk about what that's going to mean. Here's your exercise plan. Here's your supplementation plan. Here's how I'm going to coach you. Here's how we're going to adjust it. Here's how we're going to keep in touch to make this go. So my goodness, right? It's very attractive. I would say we take a little bit of a beating on the price with that to involve as many people as possible and get them to understand, like, whoa, like, people are just blown away. Like, man, I'm starting to learn the truth here, how this all works. And we have coaches, we have 480 amazing coaches who help, who want to help people. So you put that together, and the secret is really just hard work, because there's no genius stuff we're doing with the play itself, right? Or the setup. It's just that you have a lot of people who are willing to get there really early and set up the darn gym at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, the day of the kickoffs, right? Be there all day, then bring 300 people into the room and just, whoa, here we go, and just get after it and be excited for those clients. So it's an 8-week weight loss challenge, and
man. So essentially, you're talking about, roughly 2 months It's a stretch run to say, let's get super freaky motivated, excited. We got 2 months. Anybody can do anything for 2 months. You know what I mean? It's not like we're saying this is a 2-year program. Don't get me wrong. Some people, it might, you know, we have to break down the long-term goal into shorter goals, but 60 days, let's see what we can get done. And guys and girls out there, I've been to many of the kickoffs, and it is an experience. It's just, it's amazing to see the evolution too, because you know, some of the first ones were actually some of my favorites, but it had to be scalable. And one of Greg's jobs in the beginning, before they branched off the edge into multiple states, was Greg is the MC educator and extraordinaire. And again, man, I'm just saying, I got to give you your due. Nobody does it better. Neil and I talk about that all the time. Jimmy as well. Like, Greg has a way of being able to relate to my mom, who would never step foot in front of the edge, but I would trust Greg could make her comfortable enough to. But he can also train like Neil's son, who's, you know, a professional football player. Ooh. So everywhere in between, but it's the way you make people feel comfortable. But some of the neatest things I love, though, is watching, again, the community, because all the trainers, coaches, they make their team and they come out with their theme for the team, and there's a DJ and they have their own music that comes up, and these people go all out. I mean, I've been there before, and it's some of the most entertaining things I've ever seen, where they all have a dance that they come out to. Now, don't hear me wrong. If any of you are out there, like, I would be petrified to have to be a part of that. They don't make you do anything, but usually it's just a part of the group, and there's so much excitement and energy around it. But that 60 days is interesting, Greg. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because I know you guys tried some other time ranges too.
Yeah. Well, you know, the biggest challenge is compliance, getting people to the finish line. And we started with 12 weeks. And I think 12 weeks to me is the perfect amount of time, especially when you talk about results. If you give me someone who's going to make the changes and comply, and I'm not saying flip their life upside down, right? But just make some changes, get to the calorie level, not go over, get in some good movement 3-4 days a week, take their multivitamin, and stay in contact with their trainer. You can get a lot done in 12 weeks, man, right? Like, just the changes people made were unbelievable. However, we didn't have enough people making it to the end of 12 weeks. So to be honest, 8 weeks came from what time frame, like you say, is realistic, and people see themselves finishing it. They don't get to in the middle of it and think, oh my goodness, right? I still have 6 weeks of this thing to go. They get through the halfway and they're like, okay, 1 more month. Yeah, I can do this for 1 more month. And our trainers and, you know, coaches, trainers, I use that term interchangeably, what they've become very, very good with is not creating programs that are so crazy that you're in the middle of it going, I think I can do this for 1 more month. Because what we're looking for, 8 weeks is unbelievable. But when it really should set you up for the rest of your life. I mean, that's the whole goal, that you don't need another challenge, but you want to do another challenge, right? Because of all that, it's community. It's community, right? And the most successful clubs have that community. And it's very inspiring to see the folks who have done 2, 3, 4, 5 challenges. And then every time someone goes up there and says, I've lost 100 pounds now through the challenge, I've lost 120 pounds, I've lost 85 pounds, you know, oh my God, you lost a person, man, you know, like, oh my, if that doesn't get you, again, fired up, if you can't get energetic and enthusiastic from that, like, you definitely are in the wrong business, because that's the whole point of this darn business, is help people, you know, move closer to optimal health. And it's awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and you guys do it so well. And it's, like I say, it is kind of public information about what you guys do. But it's funny because a lot of other organizations, they just, you know, they don't run the play. And I think that's where a lot of times where you guys, along with some others, when you're all on the same page and you say, this is what we believe in from the top down, that's when it runs. And you see these people, and Greg, just a quick question, but like rough answer, what would you say is a percentage of the people that join the next challenge per se? What are the returners on that? The people that have already done a challenge?
Oh yeah, it's at least 50 to 55%.
Yeah, which is amazing. So
the day we finish, they just sign up for the next one.
And so the goal isn't in 60 days, you change your life forever and you never have to do anything again. It's meant this is like the first chunk of maybe getting to the first part of your goal and then continuing. So,
Yeah.
and like I said, I've been there for 5 years now watching them. And I've even recognized people because a lot of times I'll wind up going to the same clubs and it's really fun to see. And obviously I follow you guys all on social media. So I see all the groups and the people that are always participating, from the members, never mind some of the trainers that never miss, any of the calls and all those things. It just is very, very neat. Very, very cool. So, hey, if you don't mind me asking, because I do represent .fit, and it's very exciting. Not going to lie. When I came back to the company, because I used to work for Apex and NASM, and then I went to the clubs, and then I was able to come back and join Neil again about 5 years ago in the team. They were like, hey, I lived on the East Coast, and they're like, hey, we have the edge up in the Northeast, so I got to work with you guys. And it's really cool because when I go in, it's just funny because it's like everybody again is on the same page, from somebody who might be working at the front desk helping to scan in memberships, whether it might be obviously a trainer, it might be somebody doing membership. But when I go in there, it's like, wow, everybody's like preaching to the choir about how much they love like the .fit brand and supplementation. They understand the need for it to supplement what maybe you didn't get in your food. But Greg, where does that come from, even from the company? Because when I walked in, it was done. I obviously did nothing with it. I was like, wow, this is really great. Like, thank you. But where does that come from?
So from the top, right? So if you look at our founder, Vinny, his brother, Jimmy, they all use the product. They've all have it's an unshakable belief that it is going to help someone get from point A to point B. That goes back to I'm sorry, trainers, but you're stuck with my unshakable belief that it's going to help people get from point A to point B. So when you have Vinny and Jimmy, right, the founders of the company, and Jimmy's bringing his son in to train, right, one of either James or Joey to come in and work out. And, and they have their amino boost and their shaker, right? And then after that workout, they're taking their first string and they have their creatine, and you start to see this, right? That where it's not, there's no shucking and jiving, to use my favorite derogatory term. There's no shucking and jiving here, right? Or, again, I have that unshakable belief that it's going to help people. I've been training people since 1988. Since 1988, I've been training people. And the one thing that is constant is that very few people eat well, whatever that means, right, on a consistent basis. So what we're just trying to do is help them to the best of our abilities. If they're unable to eat a variety of food in the quantities that is going to support their goal and get the nutrients they need, if they don't get them, they're not going to get to their goal, or long-term, their health is going to suffer. They're not going to be optimally healthy. So what are we arguing about here? Study after study after study demonstrates it. So let's do our best and get with that. And then Michael Copeland, who our CEO, every midday he comes down the stairs with his baggie of Way Smooth, and he's got like a whole food shake, the one with the seeds and the vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And he goes right to the blender. He has his special blender, and the Way Smooth, and that, boom, done. So the CEO, the founder, the co-founder, it's there, right? And then they have me running around, who again has that unshakable belief, and I've just seen too many people. It helps too many people, and that's our job, is to help people. So there's a reason why we partnered with .fit, right? I always say, in the boot camps in the PT academies, is that that NSF certification, along with Neil's commitment to, since I've known him since 1996, and you know this, Rob, you've known him just as long, it's never changed. It's never wavered. The message has never wavered. The belief has never wavered, to help as many people as possible, in Neil's words, to save the world through fitness, right? And to create products that are high enough quality and back up everything with the NSF certification. We're okay here. We're good. We're helping people.
Yeah, no, it's so cool too, when you do see it at the top and a belief in anything, whether we're talking about dot fit supplementation or a member service or those kind of things, it's amazing. But yeah, it's Greg and I always kind of laugh, and I don't know if he'll ever see this, but probably every 2 months we'll get a group text from Jim, and Jim will be like, James needs to gain this much weight. What's his supplement program, right? And I've had the pleasure of being able to be over at his house before. He's got a wonderful family with Deb and grandma downstairs, but watching James grow and, now being in college playing football, and Joey's just a monster. I was a wrestler, and Joey is an exceptional wrestler. He also is very good at football, but I kind of go towards the wrestling. And but I've been there before, and literally at nighttime, Jim Sansone lays out all of his kids. Here's your multi, here's your omega, drink your amino boost. I mean, and they love it too, but he is so almost, it's a ritual that it has to be done, right? And of course with Vinny and I know just with some of his kids, and thankfully as well for some of one of his sons, especially serving in the military, and like a lot of great things. And with that, Greg, I've taken so much of your time, but I do got to say, as I've gotten to know you so much with your amazing family too, and with Sarah and Ella and Alex and Lance, and I've never met Janie yet, but tell us a little bit about that, because I always love the stories of how you guys go out of your way as well to make sure that the kids have an active lifestyle, they're getting the nutrition in that we could deal with kids, right? Yeah. But take us down that just to close this up, if you would, please.
Yeah, I think that, it's athletics and achievement and development, right? As a parent, what greater calling do you have, or what else is there besides trying to provide your children with an amazing life, right? To have them understand that they're loved unconditionally, to provide a supportive environment, and then to get them to understand that there's a lot out there. They should always strive to be great. It doesn't matter whether they play sports or not, play the violin, dance, or play the sport, or study like crazy, or whatever it is, right? Just get after it, man. Be great, right? And so when you take that as your role, right, as your job, then what can I do to facilitate that? And the blueprint's there, man, right? Again, look to Neil, look to Vinny. I mean, when you look at what his family, his children have achieved, it's pretty incredible, right? From that standpoint. Look at what Jimmy's doing with James and with Joey. And I guarantee you could think of other folks in the Dot Fit family, other gyms and the club, Kat, and oh my goodness, right? Like it's her son, and then her daughter this year, super freshman in Southern California basketball. The blueprint's there. The plan is there. So now we execute on that. So how do you get the kids excited about it? How to, that's my responsibility. That's our responsibility, my wife and I, and to foster that love and that enthusiasm, right, for that. And then kids get excited about, you make it cool, right? You make it cool to take your multi. You make it cool you get a first string shake, man. First string's pretty darn good. It tastes pretty darn good, right? Yeah. And then you put a little milk in there, maybe a little syrup or something, depending on the calories, right? And you get them, they just get excited about it. And then they start to get excited. And when that enthusiasm carries over into their activities and they start to do really well, nothing motivates like success. They start to be successful. Then they have other kids asking them what they're doing, and other parents are asking us, what are we doing? I'm known as the protein guy, right? Our poor parents that are friends on the sports teams, like, okay, I guess, let me guess, more protein, right? Or whatever, right? Yeah. It's there, the information's there. It's just how you can get your arms around that and then apply that. And and then I've been fortunate. My ex-wife and my wife, God bless them, they're just amazing people who have that same mindset. And it's love and enthusiasm. And how do you help these kids meet their potential, right? Meet and exceed their potential, giving them the best chance. And that's all you can do. If you give them the best chance, eventually they're going to either take it and run with it, right? Or they're not. But if you just stay with them, you plug along, and it's a big part. Dot Fit and nutrition and exercise and activity is a big part of our lives, man. It's kind of who we are. It's the fabric, right? It's kind of the bedrock, the principles, and again, those true north principles for who we are and what we do. And I think it's pretty good. I think they're pretty good principles with which to, try to always improve. You're never there. It's never perfect, but it's a pretty good place to come from, man.
Yeah, it's great. And I love, like, one of my favorite times when you told me the story about when Ella was able to meet her UConn basketball hero, what I mean, at the game, and going to be able to see her play and all that stuff. I just, because I just eat that stuff up. I'm like, oh my gosh. So
yeah, Katie Lou Samuelson, and again, it's those things that, how does that happen? How did she get picked out of the crowd amongst a few kids to be the ones to go on the court and high five the players and get the autographed basketball? How do we go to the Red Sox game and the player picks Ella and Alex out of the crowd to throw the baseball to? Like, I don't know, man, but if you do your best to do the right thing and to always, do the right thing, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and all this stuff starts to come together. And it's amazing, man. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate your time, and thank you, our audience. Hopefully, if you've been able to see this, I know Greg works endlessly while we've been going through, the pandemic. I know Greg, gosh, would probably at least 6 to 8 times per week, he's on Facebook Live within the Edge social media groups, just trying to provide support, education constantly. And, it's been a rough time for everybody, but I hope, as I say this today here on the 10th, and we're getting different word that, like, doors are going to be opening. And, I just tell you, man, I can't wait to see you in person, and can't wait to see your family and see, the Edge family and everything else. But again, I really appreciate your time today.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate you, Rob. I appreciate the company, .fit, everything that you guys do with us and for us. It's really appreciated, man. And
thank you.
It works, man. It works. Let's keep it rolling.
Yes. One of the best right there, you guys. Wow. Thanks, Greg. I'll talk to you really soon, okay?
You got it, man. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.